Hello and welcome to the Common Archetypes, where we discover our power by discovering ourselves. Woo, wonderful intro. Okay, so we're gonna start it, and today's archetype discussion will be about the King and the Queen archetype. This archetype falls under the category of power and control. These are the people who are in power. These are the power structures in most of our societies. Patriarchy, so it's mostly the king, but the queen is also very, very powerful and very influential. These two archetypes are the most influential archetypes on the physical plane. And again, just because you're a woman, it doesn't mean you can associate with the queen. These archetypes just have a feminine and masculine polarity. You can be a man and have more of a queen archetype active, or a woman and have more of a king archetype active, or you can have 50-50. Again, think of polarity. Think of this structure right here. It's not linear. It's kind of circular. And once you're at the top, in between, I guess that is you embodying both sides of the archetype, which is just perfection. But yes, so a brief description about this archetype. The king and the queen archetype are masters of the physical plane. And what do I mean by physical plane? Physical plane, your style, the way you look, makeup, clothes, car, money, wealth, anything physical, anything tangible, basically anything society tells us to get, okay? Because most societies are ruled by kings and queens. That is why most people think they have to achieve all these stuff to find fulfillment, to find enjoyment, to have joy in their life. But if you're a king and a queen, yes, you probably would, but for the rest of the other archetype, life is a bit more nuanced for us. But yes, so king and queen, think of those stuff. And you can easily identify people who embody this archetype by, are they popular? That is an easy marker. Think of the popular guy or popular girl in your culture. It varies from culture. For example, in the Western culture, it can be someone who is athletic or the cheerleader. This is back in high school, or the fashionista, stuff like that. Whereas in Eastern and Central culture, intelligence comes at the forefront before looks. This is not to say the kings and the queens are necessarily, for lack of a better word, intelligently challenged in the West. It's just intelligence is not at the forefront, even though this archetype is very smart. One of the ways they're able to influence people is with charm. They're very charismatic. They're very charming. They know exactly what people need, and they fulfill that need. That is what makes them so attractive, coupled with the fact that they look the part. Because you also need to keep in mind, kings and queens, they are the standard of beauty for that culture. Like I said before, in the West, it's probably a good-looking woman. She's beautiful, knockout, drop dead gorgeous, whatever. Insert whatever celebrity you like here, right? For both archetypes. And then in the Eastern Hemisphere or the Central Hemisphere, which is Africa, intelligence comes at the forefront, because yes, those places like it when you look good, but they also have a strong set of value when it comes to intelligence. So they want you to be both beautiful and smart, whereas in the West, it seems like just looks is at the forefront. Like, think of celebrities, especially women back in the days in the 50s, who had to pretend like they were dumb, even though they were not, right? Because to be in the entertainment industry, you need to be smart. And it's so funny how they put up this veneer of they're just dumb, laid back, and blonde, when no, these women were smart. These women crafted an image, and they completely bamboozled a nation into thinking they were less than smart, which they were not. But because intelligence is not at the forefront when it comes to who is popular in the West, that is kind of laid by the wayside. So as just to kind of give you an idea, this archetype mostly encompasses how you look and how you style yourself, and also how charismatic you are. This is mostly the archetype for extroverts. So if you're an introvert, sorry, you can have a bit of a king and queen archetype if you are an introvert, but these are people person, okay? They're charismatic. They make connections with other people easily, and they're very cunning. Don't get it twisted. Even though they look the part, kings and queens are very intelligent, and they know how to use their intelligence strategically. The differentiating factor of how a king and a queen influences. This is the archetype, like I said, of power and control. These are the people who tend to be in power. The way a king influenced, so this is the masculine component of this archetype, is usually with his action, usually with his words. He's charismatic, he's a good communicator. Usually with his action, usually with his words. He has a set of rules for himself and for anybody else around him. And he not only meets those rules, but goes above and beyond. People who embody king archetypal energy are very responsible. When they have a goal for themselves, they meet it. They not only meet it, but they surpass it. They go beyond it. And this inspires anyone in their camp, their friend group, their family, or anyone they consider theirs, to really propel them to feel like, if he can do it, so can I. And not only that, but they're also very encouraging to their people. That is the big asterisk. Okay? People who embody king archetype, they're very encouraging to their people, to their crowd, to their court. They think in us versus them mentality. So they're going to protect their own. And it can be very surprising because this person can be boastful and arrogant and just a flat out jerk. But then you see this person surrounded by a group of people, and these might even be nice people or people you consider nice. And then you're wondering, how can you act with them? But that is because they're very encouraging and they're very loving towards their own people. People who embody king archetype, very protective, very loving, and very encouraging to their people. They will go to bat for you. They will move whatever they need to move to make sure their team wins. But that is the key thing. Their team. If you're not on their team, good luck. That's all I'm going to say. Good luck, because they will come for you real fast. One of the things on how the king also influences is with hierarchy. Okay? Not only does the king set the goal, he meets it and beats it. So anyone else who looks at him is going to have a sense of awe that, oh my gosh, he's so great. He's able to accomplish X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. And they will want to follow that king, which anyone who embodies that king archetype is not afraid to take on that mentor role. They actually love being mentors. They love teaching what they know. But the thing with people who have the king archetype is they function in a hierarchical level. Think hierarchy. He is at the top, and maybe you're second in command, third in command, and sometimes that can make people at the bottom, be a little shicey, just so that they can gain the favor of the king. So most people who do embody this king archetype, it is this sense of dedication and protection to their people, power and structure, not only accomplishing a goal, but going far above and beyond, coupled with a hierarchical structure. This is the main difference between how a queen operates. People who embody the queen archetype do not base their power level on a hierarchy. They are more on an even playing field. I don't know how much this has to do with gender, but for the most part, I feel as though men are just better with hierarchical level. They understand a hierarchy. They know who's the top dog, who's the bottom dog. For them, that works. Whereas in the world of women, hierarchies are a bit tricky. Women tend to form cliques and groups among themselves. And every woman in that clique and in that group is a so-called equal. They're not really equal, but they believe they are equal. They believe that if they're into the same stuff, then they are equal. Think Regina George. On Wednesday, we wear pink. We are the same. There's an equal power structure. Even though in the movie Mean Girl, you can clearly see that Regina is the queen bee. But all the other girls who follow her really do believe they are equal. And this is how the queen operates. The queen does not operate on a hierarchy. She operates on a power even scale. So her group, they are equal. Just like the king, she will do everything to protect her group. She will encourage her girls. But again, it is an us versus them mentality. And I think this is why a lot of girls do not understand the concept of being a girl's girl. A lot of people think being a girl's girl just means agreeing with every woman here and there. But that is not true. Being a girl's girl means finding finding women who are like-minded like you, or sometimes in some cases, I'm not judging, that you can benefit from, or maybe they will put you in a better stance, and being close to those women, understanding those women, and yes, protecting and defending those women when the time comes. It does not mean protect and defend any other women out here that you have absolutely no relationships with. That's not how that works. It's kind of naive. Okay? That's not how that works. And any woman who embodies the queen archetype understands the actual definition of being a girl's girl. She is a girl's girl to her girls. She is a girl's girl to her court. She will encourage them. She will protect them. She will nurture them. However, those same characteristics does not extend to you just because you're a woman. This is how a queen works. Queen and king archetypal people work on power, structure, and an us versus them mentality. They are not your friend unless you're in a group. They are not your friend unless they have chosen you to be in the group. Listen, it's a whole thing. I know it can sting a little bit to hear this, but honestly, I'm just telling you this so you can know how this archetype works. And for you to not feel hurt, if you ever find yourself, I guess, on the receiving end of a king, of someone who embodies the king or the queen archetype rad, because they can be very charismatic and a lot of people love them. However, these people have a specific group of people they consider their own. And yes, they might smile in your face and be fake nice, but if you're not part of their crowd, they do not consider you a friend. And I think it's just easier to know this fact than to try to hope and gain favor, because if they don't see you as valuable, they're not going to be messing with you. It's kind of transactional, but the goal of this archetype is at its core to build an empire, to build a foundation, to build a system. That is why it's power and control. They want to build a specific structure for themselves, and yes, to a degree, for their own people, whoever those people are. And there are some gender aspect to the king and the queen, people who embody king and queen archetype, especially when it comes to the building and the foundation of an empire. I feel like most of the people who embody the king archetype, they tend to find themselves in, I don't know how to say this, but maybe male-dominated field. Think of the owner of a football team or basketball team, not the coach. The coach is a different archetype, but the owner of the football team or a basketball team. Yes, sometimes it can be these people online with microphones, but not all of them, just a specific few of them who do have a group of men around them, like maybe like 4 or 5 men. You can easily identify people who have king and queen archetype because they always have people around them. Like literally think of olden times when people had to come to court to present their grievances to the king and the queen, and you will have to come to court, and then there are other members of the court who are just sitting by the king and the queen, and you say what you have to say. So people with king and queen archetype, they always have people around them because, again, they are the center of beauty in that culture. Because it's very so. Yes, some of these annoying podcasters with a group of people, they can also embody that king or queen energy. And what else? Yes, they can embody that king energy. And for the queen, I found that again, the same thing. A group of women online talking, they can also embody that queen energy, or they can also be in like makeup companies. Or a good example of a woman who embodies queen archetype who started her own company is Mary Kate. Those old makeup stuff back in the day when I was a kid. And the pink limo ladies, that is a good representation of a queen energy, because these are CEOs. They want to build an empire, however that empire looks like. But there can be some type of gender association, because I feel like people who embody king energy, they tend to lead male dominated stuff like sports, And people who embody more of the queen side of the energy, they tend to be more like fashion side and the makeup side and styling side. But an easy way to identify these people is, are they surrounded by other people? Because if it's just one person, like me talking to you, okay, queen and king people, they have other people around them. All right, so even if they do have a podcast, is it just a podcast of one person interviewing you? Or is it like a podcast of a group of men or a group of women who are interviewing you? That is the distinguishing factor. It's a small distinguishing factor, but it's an easy association. So now I'm going to move into the archetypes that do not quite get along with this archetype. And we're going to start with the queen. All right, ladies first. So the archetype that the queen, people who tend to embody queen energy do not like is first and foremost the archetype of the rebel. The rebel is anti-institution, anti-establishment. The queen represents the institution and the establishment. So the queen, the people who embody queen energy, they do not like the rebel, both the masculine rebel and the feminine rebel. And the queen also has a slight dislike for the mystic. And the mystic is the feminine component of the outcasts. They do not like them. It's a thing. They do not like the mystics. However, the hermit, they can tolerate the hermit, but for some reason, the mystic, the feminine component, they do not like them. And the same with the king. Most people who embody king archetype do not like the rebel. Again, anti-establishment, anti-institution, so that makes sense. And for the king, they also do not like the hermit, which is the masculine component of the outcast. They can tolerate the mystic, which is the feminine component, but the hermit, no bueno. I don't know what that's about. I haven't quite discovered why that is, but I have found out with the king and the queen archetypes, there's a lot of gender dynamics and gender components to it, which I guess it would make sense. If patriarchy was made by men who possess, or people who possess the king archetype, I guess that gender component would really make sense as to why things are so divided. But yes, it's just something that when I was doing my research, I discovered. I was like, that is very interesting. They're willing to tolerate the other gender, but they're not willing to tolerate the same gender as them that presents this way. Very interesting. A good movie to know king and queen archetype is just any period drama with kings and queens. They usually do a fantastic job of showing how this archetype shows up. And a good teen movie is Mean Girls. I like Mean Girls. But yeah, you kind of get how this archetype shows up in the world. And like I said before, this is the archetype of people who want to build an empire. This is the archetype for CEOs. This is the archetype of people who want to leave an imprint on the physical world. And that is very important. The physical aspect is a big component of how the king and queen operate. Like I said, the glitz, the glam, the makeup, the clothes, the cars, the money, anything physical, anything tangible that would distinguish themselves from anyone else. And lastly, these archetypes tend to have the love language of gift giving. They're very good gift givers. And I know some people do not like this love language for some reason. But the thing with the king and queen is they're really good gift givers because they're very charming. They know what most people are missing. They can tell if you're insecure. They can tell if you want power. They can tell if you whatever you want. They're very good at charming other people because they're able to easily identify a need. And they satisfy that need through gifts. They like giving gifts or sometimes through words of affirmation, depending on which archetype they operate with, because they're very charming. So a big love language for the people who embody this archetype is gift giving or words of affirmation. And this is also how you can get on the king and the queen good side, by giving them a gift or by affirming how great they are. Okay? Because for most people, sometimes we show love because that is the way we want to receive love. So when I'm telling you this is their love language, this is also how they receive love, through gifts and words of affirmation. But that's also the method they tend to use to get people to love them, is with gifts and words of affirmation. To close out this archetype, even though it's a very inspiring archetype, even though it's an archetype that is very responsible and goal oriented, it can also have some aspect of control. King and queen people, or people who embody the king and queen archetype, can be a tad bit controlling because they like things to be done a certain way. They have a goal. They not only meet that goal and proceed that goal most of the time. So they have that same expectation of the people around them. Sometimes this can be motivating, but other times it can be detrimental because not everyone wants to do that. These are times when people who embody the king and queen archetype can get very controlling and they can start to monitor every single thing you do. A thing to know with the archetype is that every single archetype has a pro and a con. And usually the con comes from the extreme version of the pros. People who embody a king and queen archetype are very inspirational because they are responsible. They have a goal for themselves and they not only meet that goal but proceed that goal. It's great and it's inspiring and it gives everyone else motivation to be able to do the same thing. However, in excess, that can easily turn into control. For example, let's say this is someone who embodies a king and queen archetype. They have a goal for themselves. They not only meet but proceed that goal, and now they turn to their friends or the people around them or their team, whoever they're leading, and they see that their team is not up to par. And instead of maybe encouraging that person or giving them more time, they can start to nitpick, they can start to control, to try to push that person to do that task. So the thing with archetypes is balance is key. King and queen archetypes are very inspirational and they're very charming and they are at the top of their game and they are the center of beauty because of how they show up. However, in excess, it can be a bit much. It can be a bit monitoring. It can be a bit controlling, and it's not a good look. Okay, it's not a good look. So I guess I should have added this before, but like any other archetype, an excess of a good thing easily becomes a bad thing. So yeah, but if you resonate with this archetype or if this archetype is active in you, then please feel free to let me know. And by active, I really mean if it's in your top 3. Do you resonate with this or do you not? Because this archetype is active in me, but it's not really in my top 3. It's pretty low for me. So I would like to know, did I do it justice or not? Well, this was the first video on the common archetypes. Please let me know what you thought in the comment section below. And feel free to visit the website. It's called kitchentableadvice.com. I have a lot of stuff there. I have blogs where I write about anything and everything. I have art that I've labeled real contemporary art as well as poems that just take a dark turn. So please feel free to visit the website. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please feel free to give me a 5-star review, 5-star only. And I'll see you next week with the next archetype, which will be the innocent and the charmer. These are the most common archetypes in the world. So make sure you come back next week. Thank you so much for spending your day with me, and I'll see you next week. Bye.